Hello and welcome to the Let's Talk Football podcast. Today we've got another episode of the European pod, but before we get started I'll let Ethan go through exactly what we're going to be talking about today.
So on the European pod tonight we're going to be reviewing the Europa League games and the Champions League games. Then we're going to have the score prediction for the Europa League and Champions League final. And then we've got two debate questions in this episode. The first one is Thomas Tuchel that good, or was Frank Lampard just that bad?
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got another one, like I said, how far have Arsenal fallen? Because since they didn't qualify, they didn't go into the final of the Europa League. It's the first time in 25 years Arsenal will not be in Europe, which is crazy.
Yeah, so should be a decent one, but we'll get straight into it then. Starting off with the Europa League semi-finals, where we'll go to Roma United first. Obviously, United really already looked like they had 1 foot in the final before this game, and then they did lose 3-2. But obviously, overall, it didn't really make a difference because it was still an 8-5 to United on aggregate. But what did you think of that one, Has?
I think I agree there. I think with the first game, it's sort of almost, it was not confirmed, but I think if you're looking at the second game's fixture, even though Roma were that term, you would think Man United would go through. And I mean, it shows even though Roma did win, they went through. However, I would have to say fair enough. Roma put in probably one of their, best efforts in a while to try and win the game. I mean, they did win, but not by enough goals. They smashed United in the stats, really doubled the shots, 22-13 and more possession. I mean, they tried the hardest, I guess. I didn't watch the game, but from looking at it, it seemed to be a fairly dominant performance. But again, United didn't really do much. Well, not much, but not as much as Roma still went through, which I think shows to me that they were the right candidate to go to the final. As much as Roma did put in that effort, I think overall Man United should be in that final and should win the Europa League. However, I think overall, looking at both legs, United did enough, judging by the stats of both games. I'd say deserve. I don't really know any key players that play well. Cavani getting 2 goals actually for Man United in the second leg probably proved to be one of the key players. He's been in decent form at the moment. Probably alongside other players as well. But from what I'm looking at here, that's probably what I'm probably going to leave it out. Just a dominant performance from Man United for both legs.
Yeah, fair enough. So your opinion on the game, Ethan?
I mean, to be fair, I think we could all see this coming, to be fair, with Roma being all-out attack since they lost 6-2 in the first leg. And it did look like they were just pushing to try and get something and try and equal the tie or to go through. But I mean, I think like you said, it was job done really from United in the first leg. But I think for this season, Cavani has been superb, and United whenever, if he can sign a new deal, it'll be like a new transfer. All hype and everything.
Yeah.
So, United and Villareal in the final. Yeah. Looking forward to it. See if United can get into the Champions League. Well, they probably will because, get a cup, finally.
Yeah, well, I mean, personally, I think it's just a case of too little, too late, really, from Roma. I mean, you've let yourselves concede that many in the first leg, and then in the second leg, you're going for it to pull it back, and you've already let it slip too far. So, sympathies with Roma in the sense that they did win in the second leg, but like I say, too little, too late, really. If they could have kept it a bit tighter in the first leg, and they get that score in the second leg, then who knows what ends up happening with it. But yeah, maybe a little bit too little, too late. Cavani obviously being a key figure again, which, as Ethan sort of highlighted, like, just shows like the importance of Cavani. But ultimately, United are in the final. Overall, on aggregate, still pretty convincing. Overall on the two legs, and so fair play to United, really getting the job done. And for Roma, who knows what could happen with Jose Mourinho, but hopefully a bit more of a bounce back for them. But moving on to the other semi-final that we had, which was Arsenal at home at the Emirates against Villarreal. All Arsenal needed to do was to get just the one goal. If they got a 1-0 win, that would have been enough. But it ended 0-0, meaning that Villarreal went through to the final, 2-1 on aggregate. Absolute scenes from Arsenal, fans absolutely gutted about this one. But what did you think about the game, Ethan?
I mean, I think it's deserved, really. I mean, it just says everything about Arsenal's season. Just poor, really, and not clinical enough. I mean, Aubameyang hit the post.
Yeah.
That's the only shot I remember, really. And I think, like, defensively, they were a bit shaky as well. I think Leno surprisingly got a clean sheet this game. But Villarreal had some chances to get a goal. But, really poor from Arsenal. And just deservedly not to be in the final.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, personally, in my opinion, it's just... I do think there's a bit of an issue with Arteta again. I think because Aubameyang at the post twice in that game, and the second time he hit the post, a few minutes later, he's getting subbed off when he's the player who's come closest to scoring. He's just at the post, and a couple of minutes later you sub him off when he's literally most threatening player going forward. It's ridiculous. Absolute pathetic management. Martinelli, he's been popping off recently. He doesn't get to start, but Bellerin does. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish from Arteta. And equally, though, from the starting 11, still enough in that starting 11 to get at least a goal. So it's not all Arteta, of course. But yeah, just not good enough from Arsenal. Let the fans down once again. Fair play to Villarreal and Unai Emery. Not an easy task for Emery. Because he's having to play against a club that despised him in the end, really. But, he held in there. They've got the job done, and just another absolute downer for Arsenal fans. But what did you think about it, Haz?
Yeah, I just think, Arsenal and Villarreal, just to start compared to Roma and Man United, I mean, this is just a throwaway fixture. I think if you're looking at obviously, that's how the brackets work, but I think Villarreal and United in the final, like Roma and United, is just a bare fixture in this upcoming final. But that's how it works. Overall, I think I agree with Ethan where it's just a deserved draw. It's the same story again with many of their games that Arsenal have been, where they have not even enough chances, and the chances they do have just sluggish, really just like not clinical at all. You're talking about hitting the post, but that's just not good enough for a Europa League semi-final. You can trash on the Europa League semi-final, but it's still a semi-final in a cup, and they should be doing way better. But however, that's not the case. In terms of Villarreal, I think I almost commend Unai Emery, tactically wise, proving that he's almost better than Arteta was at Arsenal now. I think the unfair criticism towards the end, probably justified criticism, but I think it's showing tactically that Unai Emery was just a better manager. With this Villarreal side, it's just showing that going into the final, their first Europa League final, European final, sorry.
Yeah.
But either way, it's just probably quite a boring game. Obviously 0-0. Yeah. But that's all Villarreal needed to do. Arsenal, I guess you could say the ball was in Arsenal's court to win it, but they just didn't. Villarreal just got the better of them over the two legs. So I almost commend Unai Emery on the Villarreal side, and I mean, United should win that final, but I give them my. I mean, Villarreal could probably, pull out some performance, but I think United will definitely win that final. I know we're going into the preview later, but that's probably my opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. So we'll go on to the review of the Champions League then before we preview anything else. But we'll start with Man City, who are at home at the Etihad against PSG. And they were victors with a 2-0 win, meaning it was 4-1 on aggregate to Man City. Obviously, Di Maria did get a red card as well. But just looking at that game and that scoreline, what did you think of that, Haz?
Just from the performance and stuff, it all just comes down to, I think, Man City were so much more. I'm using clinical a lot today, but just clinical in front of goal. PSG, I mean, 0 shots on target in the second game. You can probably put that to maybe Mbappe not starting due to injury, which is probably a big part. But I think just as a team, you've lost confidence in a sense. I'm not sure how, to be honest, but that's definitely happened. And I think overall PSG are quite disappointed. I just think because with PSG they've actually got that European Cup sort of like history and experience, so they should be doing way better in this position. It's completely new to Man City, yet they've got the better of them. But for Man City, they've proven themselves again and again that they've actually got a team that can compete in these cups. The likes of De Bruyne, Foden, especially played amazing. Mahrez shining in both games. I just think in terms of individual performance, they just outperformed PSG. As a team, like every one of their goals was just a counter-attack. In the second game, definitely. Basically just capitalised on PSG, pretty much putting everyone up. And then every goal just looked like a set piece. Just looked like they practiced that again and again. The first one where I think it was Edison who played that long ball over, just pure class, really. It's just amazing to watch and definitely deserve to be in that final.
Yeah, fair enough. For you, Ethan, that game?
I mean, to be fair, I think Man City just deservedly won. I think they were just way better than PSG on the day. And Mahrez was brilliant, obviously scoring 2. And I think with PSG, it was just going downhill, and obviously the red card came. Silly decision to do that from Di Maria. I don't get why he's done that.
It was so sly. There's just no reason why he did it, really. But
that reminded me of the Ashley Young one on Di Maria, to be fair, in the United game. A year or two ago. Reminded me of that. But obviously, deservedly red card. And Neymar was poor. He just didn't want to take anyone on. He looked, I don't know why, but he looked sad playing. I think he isn't feeling like the best at PSG. And I think a move away would be the right decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. I can understand that. So, I mean, personally for me, I mean, it's like you say about the Di Maria red card. He's just lost his head. Clearly, which you can't let yourself do that in a semi-final. But it's just pure frustration because Man City have outclassed them twice. Realistically, and I think you could talk about the first leg and say maybe defensively PSG could have been a bit better for a couple of goals, but realistically Man City set themselves up really well in the first leg and they delivered near enough exactly the same again in the second, and that's what you want though. You want consistency, and scored 2 in both. and won them both. So that's pretty good. And I think, it just shows that we thought City were good before, but they would struggle in the Champions League. But now it just shows that City have taken it to the next level because they've got themselves all the way to the final now. So I think, fair play to City. Unlucky to Pochettino. Don't think you can really blame him at all, really, for them getting knocked out. He only joined midway through the season, so it is what it is. But Man City go through to the final, and PSG once again mess it up when it really matters, like they did against Bayern in the final last year. So but fair play to Man City. So moving on then, we had Chelsea at home against Real Madrid. Obviously, it was 1-1 on aggregate going into that game. Chelsea, though, got a really impressive 2-0 win, making it 3-1 to Chelsea on aggregate, and have put themselves into that final where they'll face Man City. What did you think of that game, Ethan?
Like you said, impressive 2-0. Well, impressive. They played superb, Chelsea did. Everyone on that pitch was amazing. Defensively, in the midfield and up front, and especially the goalkeeper as well, who pulled off really good saves. Werner getting a goal, I know it's tapping, but in the right place at the right time. Havertz was so unlucky not to score.
Yeah, he was.
Kante was unlucky not to score, and obviously the second goal, Kante created it, and Mount scoring to put 2-0 in front of Real Madrid. Real Madrid were poor, I think, though. I think Ramos looks slow, but I know he has come back from injury or like his disciplinary record or whatever. And I think Chelsea were deservedly winners in that fixture, to be fair, and I think Man City versus Chelsea is going to be a really good final.
Yeah, fair enough. So has your opinions on this game?
Well, just to start, I think I'll agree with Ethan there. It's shaping up to be an actually watchable all-English final. It's going to be better than Liverpool and Tottenham, definitely, but just look at the game. I think, just looking at the stats here, Real Madrid did come in with a game plan. They usually have a lot of possession. They usually have not few chances, but moderate, not like a lot of chances, but those chances are usually quite clinical, and they usually get the goals. But that's the one element they missed. They did knock the ball about like they usually do quite well. But Chelsea just struck them unexpectedly, I think. A lot of individual performances, a lot of performances such as like Werner, definitely turned up for the occasion. Someone who you think, it's just he's in a bit of a bad form, maybe not will contribute to a semi-final, but he turned up. And that's just for every single Chelsea player. They play like a team. There's just a lot of chances in which you could just see a lot of link-up play. I have to give a lot of credit to Kante in those link-up plays. He had probably one of his best games of his career, in my opinion. I think for most of the chances in both goals, he was pretty much there making the chances. I think for the second goal, he intercepted some pass and then pretty much set up the second goal. Just unbelievable from Kante. That's not to put down on other performances as well. Talk Mount, talk Mendy, the goalkeeper, pulled off some really good saves. I think it's just a stellar performance, and definitely a performance that you'd want to see in semi-final. As for Real Madrid, I just think they just had that last element which they had against Liverpool. I think because Liverpool could be more easily exploited, but when it comes to that clinical finishing, the likes you would see with Benzema and Vinicius was just not there that night. And I think that's the final piece of the puzzle that Real Madrid did try to do due to the game plan, but just never really executed. But congrats to Chelsea, and it's going to be a really good final against Man City for sure.
After this game, I think it just sort of confirms sort of how Tuchel's made Chelsea a really solid unit because realistically, we know that Chelsea have got good players, very decent players, Kante. Obviously, they've had for a while now, but still, you've got Ziyech, you've got Havertz. Werner, I know he struggled this season, but going into it, you'd say is a quality striker. Mount, obviously, so they've got very, very solid players, but Tuchel's got them working together, and he's got that quality out of them that they do all have. And let's not be unfair to Chelsea here. They could actually give a really good final against Man City because they have got very good bits of quality and they're actually showing it now. And they're looking like really strong as a unit. And I think that's what they showed against Real Madrid. Just really strong as a unit. Could have got a couple more goals, to be honest, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Really, could have put the game to bed sooner, really. So Real Madrid could count themselves lucky that it was only 2-0, to be honest. But again, an English club outclassing a foreign team just shows how good English football's become. But yeah, congrats to Chelsea. Good win. Some of the build-up play to the goals is really good. Kante, like you say, really good. People calling him Pirlo after that game. Understandably so as well, by the way, because...
that's a fair judgment.
Just the technical quality was just brilliant, yeah. So, yeah, well done to Chelsea. Pull from Real Madrid. But... ultimately, it's not going to help Real Madrid when they've got players getting minutes that think it's okay to laugh after losing a semi-final. Not going to mention names, but we all know who that is. Who's that? Right, but congratulations to Chelsea, and I think it'll be quite a decent final. But we're now going to preview the Europa League final, so we're going to dip back into the Europa League just to preview the final. So this is going to be played on Wednesday, the 26th of May, 8 o'clock kickoff. Can I just say, do we really have to disrespect the Europa League that much that they can't even get a final of it on the weekend? Like my days, Wednesday night, even when it's a final, Europa League, shove it in the midweek, mate. Yeah. Right. Well, anyway, so Wednesday, 26th of May, 8 o'clock kickoff. Villareal against Manchester United. So I'm going to go to you first, Haz. Now, obviously, you are a Liverpool fan. So I know United are your rivals. Do you think your rivals could have an upset?
No. I just honestly, both, you're looking at both sides. I mean, Villarreal did a decent two games against Arsenal, but it's against Arsenal. I think Villarreal it's United are just a completely different level, of course. There's different players, the likes of their individual players. I don't watch Villarreal, but I can't think of any individual performances of Villarreal that really pose a threat to Man United. They're decent as a team, that's why they're in the final. But for me personally, I just think Man United not going to find it comfortable because there's a final. Villarreal will definitely pressure them, probably even get a goal. However, I just think the likes of, we're just talking about Cavani and just their attacking prowess this season and in the Europa League. I just think they'll score too many, not a lot, but I'll probably give it to, I would say it's a 2-1 or 3 now. I got 3-1 at Man United, I'll say. It's probably, I'm going to say 2-1 United, maybe. 2-1 or 3-1. Oh, it's all really.
Are you going with 3-1? You say?
Yeah,
3-1. We want goals, Has, mate. Take it to 3-1, mate. Get an extra goal in there for the entertainment.
I will.
Yeah, right. Moving on. Well, not moving on. Going to you, Ethan. What do you think the score will be for this?
To be fair, I think Villarreal, they've only got one standout goal player. And I'd say that's Gerard Moreno, who's been in really good form this season for Villarreal in the league. But other than that, there's no amazing players. But as with United, they've just got quality all over the pitch. compared to Villarreal, and I think they will win. And it's funny you say 3-1 because I was going to go with 3-1.
Right, 3-1, mate.
I actually was. I think we'll get a goal because, like they showed against Arsenal, they can score goals. I mean, they scored 2 against Arsenal, so I think they will get a goal, but I think United will dominate most of the game and score 3 past Villarreal.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, for me, I think, we could have had a closer final than this, to be honest. As was saying, to be honest, I was thinking this earlier, really, Man United, Roma would have been better as a final, to be honest.
Yeah.
Really. But looking at this, though, however, just saying that, though, I do think Villarreal are going to win because they have got enough. No, I'm absolutely joking. I think United are going to win 4-0. I'm sorry. I thought I'd play along a little bit, but United are going to win 4-0 in my opinion because there's just too much quality in United's side compared to Villarreal. For me, I think Villarreal aren't that great quality-wise, but they've come up against an Arsenal team that is just absolutely collapsing. So, I'm going to say 4-0 United, though, and Solskjaer is going to be a very happy chappy if that is the case. But we'll then preview the final of the Champions League. This one's a bit more interesting because it's looking like it should be a closer game, this one, really. So this is on the 29th of May, on the weekend, because they do actually care about this European Cup. So, 8 o'clock kickoff, 29th of May, Man City against Chelsea, by the way, which could be hosted at Villa Park instead of Istanbul because of the COVID rates.
Yeah.
We'll see. We're not going to get into that, though. Man City against Chelsea. I'll go to you first, Ethan, on what you think the score will be.
To be fair, both really good sides in form, obviously with Man City being at the top of the Premier League and could win the Premier League this weekend. Just quality all over the pitch. From starting from goalkeeper and going up front, just quality everywhere. But with Chelsea, they've got a solid unit now with Tuchel coming in, and it just shows in that Real Madrid game, defensively, Chelsea are really, really good. I mean, Rudiger's improved so much. He's massively improved as a defender. And I won't be surprised if Chelsea win, to be fair. I actually won't be surprised.
Yeah.
It'll be a close game. There won't be a lot of goals in it, I don't think. So I'm gonna throw it in there. 1-0 Chelsea.
All right, then. So, Haz, for you, the score for this one?
Yeah, partly agree. I think you can make a case for both teams as to why they should win this final.
Oh, definitely.
Units compared to, I think, individual performance, really. I'm not saying, Man City aren't a unit, but I just think with link-up play, Chelsea against Real Madrid were phenomenal. But coming into this final, it's a whole different scenario. You have to look at Chelsea now with Tuchel into the side. It's a completely different side. Players that have that potential but just couldn't reach it. I've now reached it because I think with a manager with it, I know we're going into this later, but a manager with experience can actually take these players to a different level. And this is why they're in the final of the Champions League. It is a hard fixture to guess, really. I know most finals are, but I'm going to throw this out there. I know you said it's a low-scoring game, Ethan. I'll probably agree. I'm going to say it will finish after extra time at 1-1, and City will win on penalties, in my opinion.
Wow. Well,
I think it's going to be a very close game in the winner pen.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I haven't got the same score for as you at the end of extra time, but I've gone myself with a Man City win on penalties because I think by the end of extra time, because it will be a very close game, like you're both saying, I think it'd be 2-2 by the end of extra time. And I'm going to go a bit more precise as well, by the way. I think, obviously, because you have your 5 penalties, I think City will score all of their 5, Chelsea will score 4 of their 5, and Werner will miss one of the penalties to stop Chelsea winning the Champions League.
Write this one down. There's actually might be
and Werner, if fans are there, as they should be, Werner is going to have to do what Karius did for Liverpool. You know, after he fucked up for Liverpool after the game, he walked all around the stadium and put his hands up in the air and was like trying to plead and that. And I think Werner's going to have to do the same because he's going to miss the penalty. And City are going to win 5-4 on penalties after it being 2-2. I'm so sorry, Werner, but I just don't think it's going to work out for you this season, mate. So that's what I'm going with.
We did say predictions, but blue and ours a bit accurate. Jesus.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. Come back next season, Werner, mate. Yeah. Well, right. So as we're talking about, with something to do with Chelsea, obviously with them being in Champions League final, that leads us on quite well to one of the debate questions that we got here. Our only debate question, really, because the other thing is just touching on Arsenal's downfall. But basically, the question is here, is Thomas Tuchel that good, or was Frank Lampard just that bad? Now, I say this because they've both been supplied with the same team. Now, obviously, Frank Lampard is the guy that got these players in. But should Frank Lampard, with that team, should he have been doing this? Or is Tuchel just that good that he's risen to this level? Or is it just that Frank Lampard's that bad because he should have been getting them to this level anyway, and Tuchel's just doing what is expected of him? So that's sort of what I mean by that. So I'm going to start with you, Haz, on what you think. Is Thomas Tuchel just doing an unbelievable job, or is Frank Lampard just really poor?
So, just to make it a bit more clear, so you're saying, should Thomas Tuchel be credited for getting Chelsea in the final, or should be Lampard's success?
What I'm saying is here, right, is should, when Frank Lampard was manager, should he have been expected to do what Tuchel's doing right now, or is Tuchel just doing an unbelievable job getting them to the final and getting them picking up points and putting them into the top 4? Because there's a question here to say that maybe Frank Lampard should have been doing this, and maybe Thomas Tuchel isn't doing that much of a good job. He's just doing what's expected because of some of the players that they've got in that squad. So for you, it's more like, is Thomas Tuchel overperforming with this team?
With the team, I think you have to look at just when you originally signed these players, because I think just as a manager, I think it's easier to pick players in a transfer market and add them to your club and kind of tell them what to do compared to coming into a club with these already pre-existing players who have this potential and then bringing in a different perspective. I just think with that alone, I think Tuchel definitely is overperforming with that Chelsea side. I just think, we were talking before with the likes of Werner actually performing in a Chelsea in a semi-final, where I don't want to say he's not been nowhere this season. He's been in the team, but I feel like to turn up to that occasion probably wouldn't have happened under Lampard. Maybe that's due to the players like Werner and these new signings not playing for Lampard. However, I don't believe it's the case. I just think Tuchel just has a better perspective. Obviously, has that history with PSG, and coming into it, I would probably, a worse club in terms of the players. However, with the potential they had, they've brought them up to a level which could have been reached, but only could have been reached with the likes of Tuchel. So I just think, just using that potential, I think, you could probably credit him to be overperforming. If they win that final, I think you should have to put a lot of credit to Thomas Tuchel. It's not just say, I don't know, Guardiola coming into City because they've reached that potential of playing well. Like, I think it's a bit different because Chelsea weren't at the top of their game. Tuchel brought them to the top of their game mid-season. So I think because of that, I do believe it's they're overperforming due to Tuchel.
Yeah, and just one quick add-on question, really. It's more of like a yes or no, if anything, but even though I suppose it could be a hard question to answer. But just touching on Frank there, would you say then, comparing, looking at how Thomas Tuchel's doing with Chelsea, did Frank do a bad job? Or would you just say that, Tuchel's just done a really good job? Because,
I would say Lampard hasn't done a bad job, but just Tuchel did a better job. Yeah, okay. I think that's probably the best way to put it.
All right. So for you, Ethan, what do you think on this, really?
Well, I think Thomas Tuchel is overperforming, but you've got to bring in experience with this as well. Since Frank Lampard has only managed Derby County before Chelsea.
Yeah.
He did a decent job at Derby, getting them in the top half of the table and all that. But that's not like Premier League standard.
Yeah.
I think it was the wrong time to appoint him.
Yeah.
And I think, Thomas Tuchel is overperforming, but I think the quality he's worked with before he's brought it into Chelsea, and he's made them better than that PSG team, because probably they are better than that PSG team at the moment. I think in terms of performances. I mean, Mount under Lampard, he was decent money.
Yeah.
But now he's turned his game into a whole new level, and it's proving haters wrong. I mean, you were going on about Guardiola coming in and working with the Man City team and making them successful. Tuchel didn't have the transfer market whatsoever. Came in and did this, and it's just so great to see Chelsea side underperforming before, then somehow making them great. It's like the Stoke. It's like Stoke last season.
Whoa.
It is like Stoke last season in the league, to be honest.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about there. This is why I'm not even going to give him credit for this season, because I'm not talking about him today.
Okay.
Because they've just done my head in this season.
But Thomas Tuchel, he's done a superb job.
Yeah.
And Chelsea fans should be absolutely buzzing to be in a final with this team as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair enough. I mean, personally, for me, I'd say, just touching on sort of what you were saying, Ethan, about Frank Lampard. Basically, this is a manager that managed Derby, got them to a playoff final, and then
they played Aston Villa, didn't they?
And then they lost.
Pretty sure.
And losing in a playoff final for getting up to the Premier League warrants a job at Chelsea, according to Roman Abramovich. But I think he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready, like Ethan said. No. He needed probably another 7-8 years in management before considering doing that, because it's such a big club. So I'd say Frank, I wouldn't say he did bad. Let's not forget, actually, at one point this season, he was top of the table with Frank. I know it went drastically downhill from there, but at one point they were top of the table with him. So he had something going for him at one point, but something went wrong. I don't know what, but something went wrong, and I think it's maybe just his lack of experience being able to keep up good form. But in terms of Thomas Tuchel, I will firstly like to point out, let's not pretend, by the way, that Chelsea's team is an average side. It has got very good pieces of quality in there when their players play to the full level. But saying that, he has still overperformed to get them all the way to a Champions League final. For me, and I think he's done really well. And I say about those players that have got good quality, but it's about getting that quality out of those players onto the pitch. And that's not always an easy thing to do, especially because those players are all new to each other still, really. It's only their first season together. And Tuchel's come straight in and made them look like a unit. So I would say he's overperforming. Well done to Tuchel for what he's done so far. Maybe he can get Chelsea a Champions League trophy to lift. We will see. But yeah, I would say that Tuchel is just being really good right now, to be honest, and overperforming. So this is the final thing then. It's not really like a debate question, but I thought it should be put in there just for a few minutes at the end, because obviously, as Ethan said, because I couldn't believe it when I heard it the other day, to be honest. Obviously, for Arsenal, because they're not going to be able to get Europa League and the Champions League, and they're not in the final of the Europa League to get any European football, it does mean it'll be the first time in 25 years that Arsenal will not be in Europe. Obviously, they look like they could finish anywhere from anywhere from 8th to 11th, around about there now this season. So it's going to be a mid-table finish, and they're not going to get Europe next season. So for Arsenal, it's going to be a bit weird because they're just going to have the Premier League, the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, and that is it. They're going to be in the same boat as plenty of other teams. But it's just more of a quick touch on your opinions, guys, on just what this means for Arsenal and with how far they've fallen, but also what needs to happen next for Arsenal to not carry on falling. So I'm going to start with you, Haz. Just in your opinion, what does this mean for Arsenal, right, with how far they've fallen? Also, what do they need to do next to try and climb back up again?
Yeah, well, I think, for Arsenal, they set a lower standard now, but a standard that they'll perceive normal. It's not like they can't be disappointed and say, we could have got top 6. There's no way they're getting top 6. The mid-table finish was towards, the second half of the season, expected almost. They were just dropping points almost everywhere. And what it means for Arsenal, it means next season that even with, let's say, a productive summer, I just don't think they'll have confidence. Yeah. It'll take a long-term build to get back anywhere near top 6. Even before you think about top 4, you have to think about Europa places at this point, which is even a doubt at this point for Arsenal, which is just phenomenal and just amazing. Well, I'm not cynical, but surprising to think about.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure really. I think it's just when I think what went wrong with Arsenal, I think with any club when they go downhill, it's a gradual decline of quality. And when you sell a player or a player retires, you have to replace it with someone at least of equal quality or higher. That's the point of competing for transfers, for money to buy these players. And Arsenal have not done that. They've tried to, but it's just failed in one way or another, whether that be through leadership or just unity on the pitch. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the signings of Aubameyang and Lacazette when they were bought, those were really good signings for Arsenal at that time. And you'd look at those two players when they were bought, when they were in form, you'd think, wow, they're going to have a quite promising attack. And I think if you do look at that, then if you do look to the next few seasons where that really didn't turn out to be the case, you might have to put it down to leadership. It might be just a thing where it's just a simple case of these players had the potential, they've reached it, but the managers just basically made them lose that confidence. That might just be the simple answer. Obviously, there's a lot of factors to go into it, their board, which leads me on to their long-term thing and how they're going to bounce back.
Yeah.
And it probably just is. I think you touched on it a few episodes ago when you're saying there needs to be a full reshuffle from top to bottom, from the board all the way to the players. And that may sound hard, but that's the truth, and I think that will take years. Not sure how long exactly, but I think that has to be done, starting with the board. And I think there needs to be a reshuffle, at least a different perspective in how they approach next seasons. Maybe prioritise different signings. But it's just a massive issue, and it's ridiculous that they're not in qualifying after 2 decades. By then, you should, the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool, United. These clubs have had droughts, but they still kept that standard. And therefore, you can just look at Arsenal. You can just tell that a lot has to be changed.
Fair enough. So, Ethan, for you then, just obviously not making the final, not going to have any kind of European football next season. Firstly, as I said to Haz, as I asked Haz, should I say, what does this mean for Arsenal in terms of how? Obviously they've reached an ultimate low, but what does that mean for Arsenal? But also, as I also asked, what do Arsenal need to do next?
I mean, to be fair, I think for next season, because Arsenal fans are looking at next season now, Arsenal should be looking at the league and thinking we need to go up in the table. I mean, people were saying, they're going to get relegated to the Championship because they're that bad. The team
It's just ridiculous.
doing that bad. It's really shocking because Arsenal should never be in the Championship because of their status and everything. But for what's next, I mean, they should be going up in the table. They should be looking up in that table and thinking we need to start playing properly. And like you said, with everything like reshuffling, it just doesn't need to happen. I mean, we can all agree Kroenke should be gone. I mean, you can go back to the NBA. He doesn't care about Arsenal really. They need to get a new board. They need to get a new head coach because Arteta, he's not good enough. I don't think. I mean, has he had any managerial experience? No. As well, you've got the players underperforming. I mean, apparently, they were good at their peak at Borussia Dortmund and Olympic Lyon with Lacazette, but it's just gone downhill for Lacazette. But I mean, for Aubameyang, it went uphill because he was getting golden boots and everything. But this season it's gone downhill for him, and he knows that. He said it in a press conference. But they need to reshuffle. They need to invest in defenders as well. Their defence is shocking. They're still playing Bellerin. Their only good defender is Tierney. That's it. David Luiz, he's shite. Pablo Mari, Gabriel, We've got the guy in the changing rooms who likes videoing sexual stuff. Won't go into that, but it's a bit of a weird place for Arsenal, and I think their fans are angry at this. They just need to invest in defenders. Because don't get me wrong, they've got on their day they've got a good attack, but defensively they need to get some solid centre backs.
Yeah,
and I think since Liverpool have been getting injuries, they've brought in them players. They're trying to get centre backs who are good enough.
Yeah.
For that, I mean, you've got Konate. He's decent, but hasn't reached his potential yet.
Yeah. And
he's been playing in the Bundesliga. It's like the levels in that is like a big step. But I think as well, he can reach that potential if he plays enough minutes at Liverpool alongside Van Dijk.
Yeah.
That's what they need to do. They need to get some good quality centre backs. But since they're not in the Champions League or Europa League, it's going to be hard to lure defenders into that Arsenal.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a good midfield, Partey, Odegaard. I mean, they need to sign Odegaard again on a permanent. Will that happen? Don't know. Partey, Odegaard, I won't say Xhaka because he always gets red cards. Always get red cards. And he always gets frustrated and he gets himself booked or something. But honestly, their only defenders that are good is Tierney. And I think Leno is shaky, but don't get me wrong, he's a really good goalkeeper, but he's always shaky because the defenders are shaky and it's reflecting onto his performance.
Yeah. So for you, sort of new management, new ownership,
and new everything,
and an upgrading in defence. I wasn't going to mention it, by the way, because this is a European pod, but it's this mental. I've had it on in the background all the way. Newcastle are 4-0 up now against Leicester with 15 minutes. With 15 minutes still to play. Callum Wilson scoring again. And it's 4. So I wasn't going to mention it, but just because the score's just that ridiculous, I thought I'd just quickly say that. But going into this then, Arsenal, obviously it's a whole new low for Arsenal. Now, as Goldbridge said, and I've had a similar thing, when a team does bad, like Arsenal, I don't like Arsenal, right? And when they do bad, I laugh and I make jokes out of it and it's really enjoyable, right? But it's got that bad for Arsenal now, I can't even laugh at it. And when your enemies or rivals can't laugh at you anymore when you're doing badly, that just shows how far you've fallen when people start actually feeling sorry for you. They're not meant to like you. That just shows how far they've fallen. And that's how my mindset's going now. Because they've just gone that far down. It's ridiculous. It's not good enough. In terms of moving forward, though, Luke, Arteta should have never been appointed as manager anyway. Like Ethan said, he's got no experience. I mean, his only experience was here. People go on about, oh yeah, but he worked under Pep. He can bring Pep's play. No, he didn't work under Pep. He sat there on the subs bench next to Pep, staring at an iPad. And that's good enough for Arsenal Football Club. I mean, do me a favour. It's just ridiculous, to be honest. And I think, yes, Arteta does need to be sacked. He does need to be replaced. But more importantly, first off, there needs to be a change in ownership. Now, I would like to see the deal go through with Daniel Ek, Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, and obviously Vieira being involved in that board that are coming forward. I would like to see. I'd like to see. I don't think it would happen, but I'd like to see that bid accepted, so that can be the ownership. Because I think that's the only way that Arsenal will develop into a club that the fans appreciate. So, firstly, the ownership needs to be changed. The manager also needs to be changed. In terms of squad, yeah, of course, there is also little. There's always little things that need to be sorted out. If I'm gonna quickly briefly touch onto squad position, I'd say they should have kept Martinez and got some money for Bird Leno. To be honest, because I think Martinez was and probably still on a whole is better than Leno. Because Martinez pulls off great saves like Leno does. Plus, he doesn't usually come with the silly little mistakes that Leno has. I think defensively, you need to improve, like Ethan was saying, other than the left-back position, because that is solid with Tierney. Midfield's not too bad, but I think one bigger midfielder to help out players like Partey, who are getting left isolated at times because the midfield can be quite poor at times. So somebody to help him out a little bit, some player of quality. Going forward, they don't really need much because when they play their full strength attack, they are pretty solid, really. I'll give that to Arsenal because you've got to remember you've got Saka, you've got Emile Smith-Rowe, who's been on top quality. You've got Lacazette, you've got Aubameyang, which I know he's dropped off, but I don't know, he could pick it back up under new management. They've got like a lot of options. They've got Martinelli, they've got Pepe, who stepped into good form of recent. Saka and all that stuff. So they've got loads going forward. But I think just a little bit more into that midfield and definitely a switch around for the defence. But the main thing is change your ownership, change your manager. And even with that squad, if you had new ownership and a new manager, you'd be getting higher than this. I can assure you of that. But that does finish everything for today's pod. We hope you enjoyed listening to this because we certainly enjoyed making it, as I always say, because it is so very true, though. If you did enjoy listening to it, then please like and subscribe. If you've got any thoughts, comments, suggestions, ideas, tips, etc., near enough anything, then just put it in the comment section below. And I'm going to go to Haz first just to see if there's anything he wants to say before we go.
Right, on again, good time. I'll add something that you guys don't say. Ring that bell. That's what I'm saying, man. Ring that bell for those future podcasts. They'll be coming out thick and fast in the next weeks and months to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, and also, Ethan, is there anything you want to add just before we go?
Yeah, we've surpassed 200 subscribers. We're going to be trying to move on to 250 subscribers soon. So hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell, like I said, for future podcasts. We'll be doing the Premier League podcast tomorrow. And will you be joining us?
Hope so.
All right then.
He certainly hopes so, guys. That's the main thing.
Yeah. Good podcast today, obviously, in the European pod, and that's all from me.
Yeah. All right, then. So that is everything for this one, then, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
In a bit.